using dense terrain and transports, plus how important deployment is in your games of bolt action.
Welcome to Trident Wargaming, a podcast dedicated to all aspects of tabletop wargaming. Your hosts are Bill and Andy.
Hey there, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Trident Wargaming Bolt Action Edition. This is episode 30. Yay! And today with me, I have our good friend Dusty. He's back for another episode. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good.
Excellent.
Excited to be back.
It's always welcome. You're always welcome here. We always have good times. So, yeah. So you guys, if you don't know me, I'm Andy. Obviously, I'm your host today. So, we'll jump pretty much right into this episode. Pretty much kind of going to go over some stuff, local game that me and Dusty had earlier in the week. Talk about some of the rules dealing with like cover and whatnot. And a lot of this stuff has actually come up in our games, just knocking off some of the rust, and it's kind of come up, right? So there's that, and a lot of new stuff coming out for Warlord games. We'll talk about a little bit of that stuff, and then we also have another topic, which is transports. So we'll go through that as well. And then I think we have a little bit of a rumor mill for towards the end of the episode, but that's kind of the agenda. But first off, yeah, let's see what's new. Still been working on any little projects lately, Dusty?
Took a break from the Polish, went and work on some additional specialist weapons for the Marines.
Nice.
Picked up extra bazooka and flamethrower just for some of the Mariana book. Has some options for pick 2 or 3 bazookas and a couple of new flamethrower teams, like the Palelu flamethrower team, assault squad for the Marines. So I figured I'd put a couple extra specialist weapons together and paint them up, just so I have that as an option for those campaign style games.
Very nice. No, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's always a good thing to have those options. I know myself, I've actually had to look at my German army there. I did finish the Stug, so that's all done. Winter camo and everything. It was pretty neat doing that with the hairspray technique and the weathering with the white and scraping it off kind of thing. But I do know I do have to work on a bit more of the smaller teams, like machine gun teams and whatnot. I need to grab a couple of those because the list that I'm playing has the options to take 2, and the same thing with the Stugs, like has the option to take 2 Stugs. Flamethrower team, all that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, just a little bit more work on the Stalingrad style German army that I was doing. It was good to get them out on the field, playing them, which we did earlier in the week, like I was saying before. And yeah, that game was interesting. We had 1,000 points each, and the mission, I'm trying to remember, the mission was you had to get pretty much over to my side.
I had to get my units off
Yeah.
the board.
Yeah, so it was interesting because our map, or a table, I should say, we kind of had it was funny, I kind of set it up into a jungle theme just to kind of fit with Dusty's army there, the Marines, right? Island hopping stuff, and I was on the other side in my winter gear, so it was kind of a interesting setup, but lots of cover.
Full of cover, yeah.
Just like tons and tons of dense terrain, which was interesting. and that's kind of one of our things today is with cover itself, pretty much like using cover and knowing when to use it, knowing pretty much how it's going to affect your game, and being caught off guard sometimes, right? Like that's what happened to me in this game, shaking off some rust and not looking, 2 steps ahead of where I'm positioned. So as an example, I had one of my infantry squads. They were actually set up in dense terrain, but they had no line of sight to any of Dusty's units. So I was trying to reposition them, use staying in cover, using the dense terrain to block. And what ended up happening was they got caught out in the open. So your transport, Dusty, there, the one that carries like 30 guys, what was it, the LVT?
Good old Buffalo.
Yeah. So, Dusty came stomping through the terrain and just unloaded on my guys. So, on this topic, you kind of need to really plan ahead of where you're positioning your units when you're playing with this much terrain on the board, right? Because now, like you totally caught my guys off guard, completely, right? Not to mention that your transport actually carried, and this will go into the other topic too, is your transport carried multiple units, right?
Yeah.
Which was, in my opinion, just totally awesome.
It's nice sometimes, and it definitely has its drawbacks, which actually did happen in the game.
Yeah, it did. But yeah, terrain, like the importance of that terrain, importance of dense terrain, because as you know, if you cannot draw line of sight from any of your models to the opponent's models, pretty much if you draw a line through that terrain, you can't see them, right? So that's one aspect of the terrain. You can use it to block that line of sight, to reposition. But by doing that, you do have to watch out what's around you, right? Especially if you are going to be out in the open beside that terrain. And if it's close quarter fighting, it can turn into a mess. So check what's around you, see if you can use multiple lanes of cover. I know in that match we had some actually quite open paths, some kill zones. After that,
yeah, you could draw some lines in multiple directions through a few of the corridors.
Exactly, and I know when that unit got shot up by, I think it was 2 or 3 of your units when it was out in the open, had maybe 3 or 4 guys left, and I was like, okay, I gotta get these guys in cover and try to use as much cover as I can in order to try to survive. And they came out and they took some shots at guys and they did okay, but eventually they got taken out. But it allowed me to now Dusty's units are visible. Yes, they're getting cover, but now I have units in the rear guard that are actually able to start pumping in shots. And because we are so close ranged, you're losing modifiers, so now your shots are getting easier. And of course I was actually rolling not too bad for what we had. We need 5s and 6s almost all the time, right?
For vets, yeah.
So but that's the thing too, is when you do have those units in cover, sometimes they're going to take the brunt of the attacks, and sometimes you need to go down. And I know I didn't the first time when they were by the cover. They didn't go down because they already ran. So Dusty totally took.
I was hoping for that. I was trying to capitalize on that.
Exactly, and you did, right? You decimated that unit. Like, I had to make a morale check to see if they were actually going to rout. You know, so doing that is like forcing my hand now. Like, oh, okay, well, my army doesn't have as many infantry units, and I'm losing one right now, like right off the bat. This is going to hurt. Now I have to try to bring my forces back and try to recoup that position, right? So, but as for that terrain, yeah, like, if you got dense terrain and it's woods, use it. And don't forget about how you position your infantry in this terrain as well, in dense terrain. Because, like, if you clump in the middle and you're not on the edge and you're drawing more than an inch through that terrain, you're actually going to be giving yourself a modifier as well, which you don't want to do, right? But if you're on the opposite, where you're on that edge and you're not drawing that inch line through the terrain, you're able to shoot at your opponent and not get the modifier, but because you're in cover, you're still going to get that modifier, right? So it's definitely important, because that happened to me too. Like, I positioned and I was like, oh, my guys are like wrapped around to the back edge, back corner, but as I'm drawing that line of sight to your unit, I'm going through at least 2.5, 3 inches of terrain. And, oh, okay, they're getting modifiers, so probably not hitting with those guys, you know? So, always keep that in mind, I would say. Hopefully that helps kind of with dense terrain. And, I mean, if that goes with ruins too, right?
Oh, yes.
Right, the dense terrain, and of course ruins is the heavy kind of cover. But even your vehicles, like that shot you took on my Stug, and it was smart, the way you positioned it, you know, like, you positioned your shot, it was at an angle, you had my flank, right? My front was in cover, and the whole thing was my tank, like, there was cover, but my tank was not covered that more than 50%. Yeah. So I wasn't even getting, there wasn't even a modifier against it. And luckily enough, you didn't do really well the first few times you shot at it.
No.
But again, positioning, angles, you know, and knowing how to draw that line through that terrain, or that angle, or even being in the terrain is quite important to really get, you know, grasp the idea behind it, right? So,
well, and I was using the LVT tank as well, which is nice. I mean, you've got that you got a decent cannon on top with a coax HMG and a couple of MMGs, but your MMGs are pintle mounted, so they're 360. But in reality, the machine guns themselves are fairly rear facing. So there's never really a chance that you'll a front shot. You're always shooting out the sides or the rear.
right.
Those two. So positioning is really important. Because, you know, despite the fact that the game terms they say they're 360, but physically, being the real device, or the real tank, and the model itself, they actually don't go 360 unless you're firing at aircraft, which is the main purpose of it. So getting that tank positioned in a way that I'm not exposing my side armor to anyone and still getting my MMG shots, so that I'm not wasting those extra 10 shots.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of firepower.
Really important. Yeah.
No, for sure, for sure. Yeah, it's a tricky it's a tricky place to be, right? And of course there is more other cover too, you know, out there. But when you're playing on a table like that, like a jungle, you know, or a big thing of woods, maybe, somewhere in Western Europe, you're doing a campaign or something, and you're fighting in the woods, right? Yeah, there's a couple other things too. With that much terrain and that much blocking of line of sight, mortars, artillery really, really, really get hampered, and even AT guns too. Howitzers too, but it's important to have. And now that I'm thinking about it too, like it'll be adjusting my army, having those spotters.
Yeah, those
Right.
dense terrains. Yeah, I mean 10 points, and you've got position where you can, set yourself up so that you have that line of sight.
And that's just it. Like my mortar team didn't even shoot that game, I don't think. They ended up
No, I think you moved a couple of times, and that was no shooting.
yeah,
I was surprised, actually. I was surprised.
They
I
were
thought you would have tried at least one indirect shot.
well, I still have to see you though, right? And like there was
Yeah,
no visibility, and just the way I had it positioned in the back line, in the little trench section that we had there, and the way you had deployed or came onto the board, you were in kind of a central and off to the far flank kind of position.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the dense terrain, and like on the right position, on the right flank, it was the beachhead, so there was a lot more visibility there, and you pretty much refused the flank on me, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that flank that was open, like I didn't have any targets to shoot. So my whole thing with that mortar team was like, okay, crap, can't see anything, I need to get in position, but there's a lot of dense terrain in front of me, so it's going to slow me down. What am I going to do with this guy? So I was like, well, I do have a transport that it can go and man another gun, right? At least it can do something.
Yep.
But it didn't even make it there. So but yeah,
Well,
like, go ahead, Dusty.
having that, having a transport, one or two in your army, sometimes you pick them for a specific unit, but if your mission objective changes, there's always the option, like, well, if my artillery isn't going to do anything this turn, or let's say I needed to get as many units off the board as possible, well then, put that unit in your transport or tow it,
Exactly.
so that you're at least getting the extra points for dropping them off on an objective or getting into your opponent's line if you don't have very good use for them in standard terms, if the terrain is too thick, or basically the mission kind of prohibits a really good use of artillery or some of those smaller team units even.
No, for sure. It's tricky. I mean, especially with the missions, and this one, of course, was okay. I'm gonna wait for you to come to me, kind of thing. But if I don't have a shot on you, then kind of sucks, right? But for at least for next match, I'll be rebuilding that army and tweaking it a little bit, and that's what it's all about. But going with cover as well, the snipers, even though we're infamous for not even hitting or wounding with our snipers, as most of the guys know,
Yep.
that terrain, if the unit's in it, that terrain means nothing, right?
Yep.
So, but they're good. It's good. Like, I know I was gonna go and pick off your MMG team because didn't want that thing firing at me, and then it was just opportunity targets. Okay, hasn't fired yet. It's in the woods, so that's not going to matter. Let's take the shot. Let's see if we can do it, right?
Well, and at that point, I knew your sniper was on that side of the board. I positioned my MMG. I deployed it out of the vehicle and actually out of terrain.
Yeah.
Because I knew I wanted to possibly end up moving it because it was part of the objective. So I wanted to maybe get out maybe get a nice shot off at a good target, and then possibly move it. So I didn't want to be bogged down. And I knew that the sniper, if I didn't position my transport in front of the MMG, at least cover it with a little bit, you probably would have gotten it anyway. So kind of taking my chances, but I think it did okay. I think I survived at least one shot.
Yeah, it did. I think I put a pin on you, and that's about it. But yeah, it's fun. It's good. It's good. It's a good practice. It was a good mission to play to refresh the senses of what was going on and things to do. Right. I know there is other terrain to talk about too, like buildings and whatnot. We're not going to touch on the buildings because that's like a whole other subject for
Podcast subject
for stuff. Yeah, which I'm sure we will be touching as well. So going on.
One we
Go ahead.
actually one we didn't think about, and I should have taken more advantage of, was actually the open side with the water. Because both of my vehicles are amphibious, so I could have still hugged that side of the board.
Yeah. No, definitely.
But I could, you wouldn't be able to deploy as close, and I would have been able to still move through it. That could have been an interesting option. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
like
along that side as well.
Yeah, because the whole idea, like when I set that board up that night, it was the idea of it, like it was an amphibious assault, right? I mean, you had the water, you had the
and
beach.
with that mat, it's water on the short side,
Yeah,
not on the long side. So
yeah.
that's the one difference with this particular mat. Still a
So,
beautiful mat, but
oh, it is.
when you set up on the long edge board, it's not quite right.
But with with that in mind, like setting that table up, when I set it up, I was like, okay, well, if we ever did decide to play long ways like that, okay, I don't want it to be just a wide open berth, so that you're coming in and you're just gonna get just completely demolished, right? You gotta put something there for the players to work, because it's still a game. You still want to try to make it fun and playable, right? Compared to, okay, well, I'm gonna just demolish him because he's out in the open and that's it, done, right? But even if you did deploy on that right side, I probably would have still had my infantry in those little trenches, right? Just to try to defend. I don't know if, well, my Stug probably would have been deployed on that side too, because that's where your vehicles would have been.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would have been kind of out in the open too, right?
Yeah. But it had trade offs.
Yeah.
I could have deployed my infantry transport on the right side, tank on the left. Tried to draw your Stug out to protect my transport, which actually had the majority of my units in it.
Yeah.
Try and get them further along into the objective. So that could have helped me. It all depends on what you decide to deploy at the moment.
No, exactly. Either way, we learned a refresher course, I guess. We learned a bit again about the game and just importance of the terrain and using it. So keep that in mind. Hope that helps a little bit. I know it's kind of a basic kind of idea and it's in the book and whatnot, but sometimes you forget, man. Sometimes you just have that moment of your tunnel vision on that unit and you don't realize, oh crap, I just made a mistake and it's going to cost me that unit, so but yeah, so in that game too, which brings us to the next little subject, there is transports. Now I know Dusty has talked about it a little bit here. Man, I'm really realizing how fun and good these transports can be. in the game of bolt action, right? And how important they can be in the game of bolt action. Like, after you came up, because visually you see your tank, your transport, and you're like, okay, it's a transport. And because I play so many other games where a transport only actually carries one unit, this is where it's a big difference in bolt action, because you actually can carry multiple units, right? Because it goes by model count, does it not?
It goes by capacity of the transport. So
Exactly.
as long as you don't go over, you can put as many units in as fits in there.
And there you go. So
and then the Buffalo is carries 30 men.
Yeah.
That's quite a few units.
That's a whole box that you can buy of infantry and fit it into that thing. So...
Yeah.
But it makes you look at it in a different way, because like, if you would have got that Buffalo across the board, you would have won, like, instantly.
Yep. If I had I got a little aggressive. If I had been a little more concentrating on the objective of the game, yeah, definitely, I probably still could have. I could have gotten that vehicle off the easy. I would have just skirted past your tank.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe weathered a shot, but there was enough terrain that I could have at least gotten covered.
I mean, even if you got to the point of, okay, you got pretty close to my side, and let's say, okay, your Buffalo got taken out. Okay, your units inside would have taken some damage, would have taken some pins, but they would have all came out.
Yep.
And possibly on the next turn, doing a run order, a majority of them probably could have or would have been close enough or even off the board already. Right? Like, there's only so much I would have been able to do with what I had on that side. So, yeah.
Well, and I had a flamethrower in the Buffalo as well, just waiting to hopefully get close enough to your armor, and then a first lieutenant running behind it to get those extra command.
Exactly, and like
bonuses tomorrow.
And that's the other thing, right? Like, those transports can carry very essential units, like very important and effective units to your fight. Like, again, you said the flamethrower team. I've seen that multiple times. I've seen that. Derek has done that with his Soviet army. He rushes his transport up and deploys the flamethrower, and that flamethrower roasts units. Then, if he survives the next round, he jumps back in the transport and off he goes. Right? So there's stuff like that. You can have, well, if your commander's in the transport or small units in the transport, they can be firing those extra weapons. That's a big thing, right? It helps. And a lot of transports. A lot of transports too are actually fairly well protected. So,
for the most part, yeah. Yeah, this one's an armored vehicle, so it's got a 7 on it. It's open top though.
Yeah, but even still, like 7, still
7's not bad for transports, because for the most part they're other than the German half tracks, you're looking at a soft skin truck.
Yeah.
For most other transports.
Yeah, and this was the first time I actually used the German half track. Prior to that was with my French and one of their trucks, and the thing never survives. It's either I'm using it wrong or something, but it always gets hit, usually by prep bombardment or something, and then takes it out. But it's a truck. I mean, it's bound to happen. But yeah, the half tracks and whatnot like that, they're really good. Even in a game I had with Alan a few weeks back, he tends to take the half tracks for his SS army, and yeah, they're no slouches. Like, it's hard to crack them if you don't have the white weaponry to do it. And then of course they got their machine guns, and of course Germans have the bonus to their machine guns, so it's just constant fire and this armored transport that is blocking your way. And then on top of that, if you get too close, there's a unit jumping out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some pretty good tactics with them, especially positioning certain units into certain areas and getting them where you need to get them. Fast moving transports, and using them on the roads. Like Dusty's like the expert at that with the roads.
Oh yeah, and double a wheeled vehicle's movement.
Yeah, you're across the board.
Across the board. So yeah.
Exactly. You can't stop that because your opponent has multiple units like that. It's a tough game. Like, you're spinning on your heels because you're trying to decide, okay, what do I need to take out? Like, I need to take these things out. How can I take them out, right? And the one thing with it is a downside with transports, especially with the open top transports, of course, is, which I think majority of them are, when you're assaulting them, like, all you need to do is get that damage, and they're pretty much destroyed, right?
Yeah.
So
that's the thing. Yeah, their weakness is definitely veteran units with it.
Yeah.
Because they can, and you're automatically forcing, you assault the vehicle, you're automatically forcing the unit out, which is awkward, especially if the opponent wants to keep that unit in the vehicle. And if you win that combat, you've essentially taken out both units because you're now the closest unit anyway.
That is true. That's very true.
Even at the end of the turn.
That's.
I believe they're still destroyed if you take out the unit.
Well, more than likely, the vehicle will be destroyed because you will, after the combat, you'll pretty much consolidate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you consolidate to be the closest, hopefully, to that vehicle, and then when that happens, that, like, end of the turn or whatever it is, whenever that happens, the vehicle's gone. So 2 birds with 1 stone. Yeah,
Pretty much.
I would say so.
The other large drawback is all pins that the vehicle suffers are transferred to the crew as well.
Yes.
So that can be quite difficult. And I know your Stug hit my Buffalo once, didn't blow it up. I didn't believe we caught fire, which was an additional pin.
Yeah.
So by that time, that's I believe it was also used. Weapon on the Stug was HE.
Yeah.
So there was three
pins
pins plus 2 on fires. So that's immediately 5 pins on the vehicle and unit in the vehicle. So there was only 2 left in the vehicle. But of course, that was my flamethrower team and their units. So I was like, now I got to try to rally because that's 5 pins.
Yeah, a lot of pins on the vehicles, and then of course whatever's inside will take pins, which definitely can hamper your game plan. Especially, like, it's nice the Buffalo carries that many models, but that multiple units.
Yeah, that was it must have been over 50% in there just to get them further up the board faster.
Yeah.
So one lucky Stug hit at the beginning, second turn, and that could have ruined my chances for any kind of victory.
Oh, 100%.
It just obliterated the vehicle, and then I took damage for every unit. Every member.
Yeah, and like, it's not like the Stug was this super powered tank or nothing, but you can just imagine some of the other tanks targeting that unit, but
great vehicle, but yeah, still only 7 armor.
No, for sure. Cool looking vehicle on the board, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, they're gigantic.
They are, but it's a nice looking army though, right? Like with the Marines and everything, and
yeah, it's a fun vehicle to have in there, and I've used them on a missions where we used like a large canals and things, and
Yep.
you kind of just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go right through the canal under the bridge, and then pop my guys out on the other side of the bridge
Well, that's
instead
what
of taking the roundabout.
that's what you did in our big tank war game,
Yeah, the tank war one. Yeah.
right? Because the objective pretty much was on the center of the bridge.
Yeah.
And like we had to take the bridge, and like it was funny because our side of the board was getting just peppered, and it was Dusty's forces that was making the positive, and aggressive moves to actually capture that objective because he was amphibious. He was going up the water line, right? So definitely look at the capability of your transports, for the different armies and whatnot too. Be it you might have they're armored, or they have, just like the buffalo and whatnot, they're amphibious. You could just be having lots of wheeled transports, which are going to be super fast, especially if there's roads. So,
Generally pretty cheap.
and that
Points.
too, yeah.
Maybe that ice in the bag too.
There's that too, and there's also like a lot of them have the options for the multiple pintle mounted machine guns, right?
Mm-hmm.
So take advantage of that too, because machine guns are not anything to just scoff at. Like when you got 2 or 3 of them firing at you because
You've got a mobile machine gun. So if you don't want to take a machine gun team, you can take, a some sort of little carrier.
Yep.
For a couple of light machine guns or MMGs in there, and yeah, it's a little mobile gun platform.
Yep. Well, it's like the I think that's a lot of the early war vehicles as well. I know the Soviets have, I think it's their little tankettes or something like that. It's literally a small little tank with a bench on it, but it's such a small silhouette of a model, and it has an MMG on it. So positioning it into cover is easy, and you have this mobile machine gun team pretty much that's armored. So, and it's cheap. I think
And some of those small ones, yeah, definitely the little tankettes or even like the Stuarts and stuff. You can fit them behind a wall or a fence.
Yeah.
Just the guns poking over the top, and they're covered.
Yeah, so
Just over the hedgerow.
there's some good options. Definitely some good options for transports and what you can do with them, and weapons on them and whatnot. As for like what units you're putting in them, I definitely suggest your more of your veteran units that might have shorter range weaponry like SMGs, and take advantage of being able to get them where you need them to do their work. We see that a lot. I know Jason does that too. He'll have small little teams, but they're loaded to the gills with SMGs and whatnot, but they're veterans. They're tough as nails, right? So definitely do that. Or if you have specialized units, engineer units, or Piet teams or bazooka teams, right?
Piet and Flinter.
Even
I do like. I should contact the Warlord about an FAQ question, but I do like taking the Buffalo. You can transport a Jeep, and I have taken a Jeep transport, put it in the Buffalo, and then thrown a flamethrower team in the Jeep. So I'm double transporting. So I've gotten a
You're double
9-inch.
dipping. You're double dipping.
Double dipping. I've got a 9-inch move, 9-inch advance with the Buffalo, and then a 12-inch advance with the Jeep, and a 6-inch deployment with the flamethrower. So it's interesting. I should email them about it. Everything seems legal, but it's
a
it's a little scary when you're. It's possibly a loophole. It is a little scary when your opponent's flamethrower is suddenly 24 inches down the board in one turn.
Yeah, we definitely have to look that one up. I'll probably check that out this weekend too, see what I can find. But it's things like that too, right? I didn't even think about a transport carrying something like a Jeep, you know. But they did do it, you know.
Yeah.
It
Some of
was
the larger
there,
ones
right?
did.
So, and that's another option. I mean, how many of those Jeeps? Well, there's so many different equipped Jeeps as well. Like, isn't there like a double bazooka one or something for the Jeeps?
There's been double bazooka for definitely in I think that was in the
That's in the current campaign book, the Mariana.
was no, it's not in that one. It's in one of say the Inland Battle of the Bulge book.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember the title at the moment.
That's all good. Yeah, I do remember seeing it though,
Yeah.
but I mean, you have that option.
So many different options for those little Jeeps.
But let alone you got crazy amount of options for transports and how to use them, and you know, sometimes you're taking them up to flank, or you're just skirting from cover to cover. Hence, you know, talking about cover earlier. It's definitely important to use the cover for transports too, because they can be fairly soft skin, a little bit weaker, right? So
Yeah, I mean, but if you got a wheeled vehicle, you get 2 pivots as well.
Yeah.
Versus anything one. So that's actually really effective in positioning yourself behind cover.
Oh, for sure.
Second pivot.
Yeah, they're still getting used to it myself, actually. Still getting used to using transports. I really didn't use them too much. I was mainly, you know, on foot, tons of infantry. I lost a squad. Okay, not too worried. I got 5 more. You know, that kind of idea, right? But now that, you know, playing the Germans this last little bit, okay, I don't have as many bodies. I'm, you know, regular to veteran. Need to move some of these guys around, or even protect some of these guys a bit better and utilize them in different roles. It's definitely something to start really looking into more and exploring options for it. So guys out there, definitely check it out. And you know, if you have ideas of stuff or fancy little maneuvers that you do with your transports and units, feel free to comment down below and whatnot about them, or reach out to us. Love to hear it. Love to get your guys' ideas. And even if you've come across some obscure vehicle transport from one of the other armies, who knows, maybe it's from the Hungarians or something, or the Romanians, you know, let us know. I like to look into that stuff and get those ideas rolling. It's pretty neat. And then and if you have pictures of stuff like that, post them, show them, check them out. So, but yeah, transports are a great thing in the game, and it's going to be. I think we're going to see a lot more of them in the future, especially in some of my armies. I think might even base an army off of them too, just to.
There are a number of the campaign armies that require you to have a transport vehicle for each unit.
Oh, and actually, you kind of just reminded me of something too. That's one thing that we don't really talk too much about, and probably should. When you're playing tank war, you're actually required to have transports for any infantry that you're bringing along in your army, any ground forces. So, you know, it's actually forcing you to do that. Now, of course, I play Soviets a lot, and I tend to take tank riders to get around that.
Yeah.
But still, it's still the same principle, you know. Um, all it takes is getting shot at, and they're deployed. But yeah, now you got to look at that option. Well, you have a lot more armor on the board, so you got to worry about that a lot more. What's my options, right? Do I take fast and just get them in there and deploy, or do I take a bit more armored and try to skirt terrain, keeping in cover to deploy and try to get those objectives? You know, it makes a big difference, right? And what's going to be the threat? Is he going to target your transport, or is he actually going to take a shot at your tank? More than likely, it's going to be at your tank. So a little bit of leeway there too with capture and hold objectives with those transports and troops inside. So keep that in mind. That's a good one. We'll have to have one of those topics for tank war at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of taking infantry support with tanks.
Oh, 100%.
You throw a couple small units, and then maybe you've got an anti-tank team of some sort.
Yep.
Just for sneaking up the board, keeping your opponent on its toes.
Oh, 100%. And sometimes sometimes they just kind of go a little tunnel vision just on the tank battles, that they kind of just ignore your infantry. It's like, well, more than likely that infantry is actually going to be a thorn in your side, or it's going to help, win the game. So, no, it's pretty good. So, yeah. And then we got those two topics are pretty good. They kind of coincide with each other as well. Just like a lot of the bolt action stuff, as we go through stuff like this. Eventually you're going to start to see, okay, I see what they're talking about. Other rules are going to come into effect too, with buildings, and then having your units deployed in the buildings and using that cover and seeing the advantages and disadvantages kind of thing, right? So down the road you'll see that. We'll talk about that for sure. But right now, since we touched base on those two subjects, we'll probably go on to our next one, which it's kind of a mix of what Warlord Games has kind of been releasing or showing down the pipe for like pre-orders and whatnot, and then just a little bit of a rumor mill as we come towards the end here. But right now, they just released 11 hours ago some new pre-orders for Victory at Sea, which is pretty cool. A few more ships. You have the HMS Prince of Wales for the Royal Navy. Looks pretty cool. The USS Enterprise, which is definitely one I'm picking up.
Who doesn't want? Yeah.
Got to get another carrier for my U.S. fleet. The Kirishima. I hope I said that right.
For those fond of the Pacific War.
So that's pretty cool for the Japanese fleet. For the German fleet, I'm gonna probably butcher this. Schleswig-Holstein.
Schleswig-Holstein, yeah.
I don't know if I probably butchered it.
The next one you may butcher even more.
Oh boy.
It's an Italian ship.
Yeah, the Emanuele Filberto Duca d'Aosta.
That's actually pretty good. Yeah.
European background myself, so. But some nice looking ships, some larger ships. It's pretty neat. They're all for pre-order here right away. It's going to be cool to see these come out and get all painted up. I know I'll be picking up a couple of these, but they have... The one thing we keep hearing about is when are they going to come out with more of the flight stands for the aircraft?
Yeah.
For Victory at Sea. Now, I'm pretty sure, definitely pretty sure that it's coming. It's definitely coming. Some of the rumor mills that I heard, the epic scale games have been doing really, really well. So guaranteed you're going to see a lot more of it, and even possibly another range come out, and I'm not sure for what, if it's going to be another game or if it's going to be another era. So that'll be interesting to see. This is kind of what I've heard down the grapevine. We also have, well, of course, new Island Assault actually dropped in the stores here. I got...
Yes, it was very, very tempting. I saw it in the store as well.
I got my copy already. Picked it up on Friday there, so we'll definitely... I'm going to be doing an unboxing of that within the week for sure, and I'll have that posted up, and we'll show that, the contents of it and whatnot, checking out the miniatures and see if there's any changes that they may have done with the plastic kits or and whatnot, and just the content in that
couple
box.
Pieces of scenery in there.
Yeah, and there's that too. I like to show those off. That'll be pretty cool. And then that might get me rolling on trying to start up the Japanese army that I have kind of sitting on the back burner. It'd be pretty neat to do that. We haven't really seen too much of a presence of them in our community in the last fair bit. So just due to, of course, COVID and just people's schedules changing, different people showing up. But lots of goodies also came out with that. There's a whole bunch of other sets that came out, smaller sets, for the American. I think they get a Raider squad. I think it was a Raider squad they came out with.
New Raider squad. I think those were all pewter.
Yeah, those box sets.
And then
for sure.
a new command and support repackage. So to change it from one blisters to a larger box.
Oh, their new support packaging. Yeah, you end up getting like the command, a medic, MMG team, and like a mortar team and an observer or something like that. It's actually pretty smart that they do that, because it's like that all in one package, and you're probably saving a few bucks by doing that.
You're saving a couple bucks versus buying them blister wise.
So pretty good. And I've noticed too, like, there's been a couple of unboxings that I've done where you look at the set and there is actually no commander that comes with the set, right? Most guys will make it out of the plastic kits because you do get extra models, which is completely fine. But they do have some nice specific models for that. But those support sets are pretty cool. They've been continuously updating the armies and including those sets now into the actual range, which is pretty smart on their behalf, and pretty good for us, because then you just one-stop shop. That's what you get. The Germans also got a new set as well, the Panzer squad. LEHR. So it's pretty neat. Another pewter squad, different poses.
Like lots of SMGs
and Panzer Fausts. Yeah. Kind of reminds me of the Hungarian sets. Very close. Their equipment's pretty close. So there's that. The Japanese also got some sets. I do believe, I think it was their like a parachute squad.
Japanese Airborne, I believe.
Yeah. So they got that, and I think there's another unit as well. But nice to see some other models coming out for them, being advertised or repackaged in order to.
Yeah, the Paratroopers are, I believe, all brand new.
Yeah.
They didn't have them in the range before.
No, they did not, which is cool. They're it's nice because now you have a little bit of a difference with your miniatures for the Japanese as well. So that's pretty cool.
Variety.
Yeah, exactly. And then just some other ones. You got your American Civil War, some Sarisa Precision Scenery sets, which is pretty cool. I've bought a lot of sets from them, and I know, Dusty, you've gotten some sets from them too. Really, really great sets to buy. Customer service is top notch. Shipping here to Canada is actually pretty decent. I think it takes about maybe 3 weeks or so, which is actually really, really good. They're based out of the UK as well. So yeah, props to them for continuously working with Warlord Games.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do have some sets. I can show people what they're like. And then Black Powder, they came out with some Napoleonic Prussian Jaegers, which is pretty neat. We haven't really delved too much into that, really. I know I did buy some sets to start looking into that eventually, but that'll be down the road. So yeah, that's kind of releases. As for the rumor mill, I've already talked about some of the more epic scale stuff that is possibly coming down. Not any crazy details on that, but be on the lookout for it. It'll be exciting to see what they come out with. As we talked about before, Italians, you guys have seen probably the release of their new campaign book, a soft underbelly for the Italian campaign. That should be coming out, I think, late this year, and I'm gathering there's definitely going to be some plastic kits coming for the Italians. So probably prepare yourself for like some new box sets, new starter sets. So that'll be pretty cool.
Absolutely.
That'll be another army to put underneath the collection. But might see more of them being played, right? That's
absolutely.
I think with these sets that come out, like plastic kits are more appealing for people to pick up and buy, right? But I do know a lot of people like pewter still, so
It depends on your arm strength when you're around your.
Yeah.
What's the strap on your case like?
Yeah, let me just pull out my French army and I'll tell you that. Yeah, I've been working out. So that's a good point. They got, what else here that I have? So Blood Red Skies. They've collaborated with Airfix to make like a larger scale Blood Red Skies, which they kind of call Big Red Skies. Right. Which I'm interested to see that. See if they've changed any of that.
Definitely a little more excited about that one because I think it's 172. I think they were planning on doing it. And I mean, you can get Airfix anywhere, any hobby shop.
Yeah. Like I've got 2 kits that I was going to use for my German aircraft, just for whenever I do an airstrike, right? Or have it available to use as terrain,
Yeah.
an airfield or something like that. So, but seeing that they're kind of going that route, whenever that does come out, I'll try to at least get a copy down at the shop and maybe get some aircraft set up and painted up and demo it. Maybe get some interest peaked.
It would be interesting to see a side by side battle with a ground battle happening. There's an air battle. Next table represented above them would be interesting.
And that comes to the next one, the next rumor, which if this is true, I'm super hyped and excited. I know a lot of people will be. I keep hearing about it. It's the Combined Arms rule campaign set that they're working on. Possibly end of the year, new year, I'm assuming. I'm hoping, because this will definitely help kickstart kind of those campaign dreams that I've got, that I want to try to start up, where it literally takes, all the World War II systems into effect, and they can actually affect your campaign and your games and have little things. Plus, apparently there's a game within it as well.
Okay.
So, this coming out will definitely make, for those community guys who like to do this kind of thing, it'll help them out. It'll make a big difference. You can start actually planning stuff and like incorporate it into your games, incorporate it into your meetups or events or tournaments that you want to do. So this is the one that I'm most forward, to see come out, to look at, and just to start to play with and get going in our community. I've talked a lot about doing a campaign and trying to get stuff set up. It's obviously a lot of work to do.
There's a lot of work, especially when the foundation isn't there. But when there's a rule set in place and somebody's done all the hard work for you, it's kind of that. It's like, okay, then everybody has a copy of the rules. You don't have to.
Well, and there's that too, like, because I know I've done it before. I've done the campaign before for a different system where, I've literally had to work on a base rule set guideline booklet of, this is literally your rule set. This is your player's pack. There's extra charts in here that you use because of character progression or whatever, right? Whatever the case was. It's a lot of work, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it, and it looks really good in the end when you're done. You literally can go get it printed out and almost publish your own little booklet, which is one thing that's good, because it's kind of stays with the community, right? And
it does. It becomes part of the community.
Yeah. People remember that. Like, again, like the moments that we've had events, or you yourself and Jason have done the tournament, and or the event, like with Ward's tournament there, I think it was Onslaught. And then Phil's event there as well at the Legion. Like, those are memorable moments, right? And that's what guys love. They love reminiscing about that. And with this Combined Arms, I think we're going to get a lot of that. And it's also going to possibly attract other players, right?
Yeah, it definitely can. And if it's set up definitely cooperatively, when you set up those campaigns, you don't even need to play that system. If
Mm-hmm.
you just have to combine with a team where there's somebody has that system and they can play those games for you, and those outcomes adjust your game in the system you're playing. So it's definitely a great level of cooperative gameplay.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's like starting up the video game and playing co-op with each other, right?
Yep.
So, but yeah, that's definitely one I'm looking forward to. um, but yeah, coming to the close of the episode, that's pretty much all we got for tonight. We'll have more stuff going on. I think I'm going to plan on doing some stuff with Victory at Sea in the future here. I know we had a couple matches go on in the last couple of weeks, which is good. People are pretty hyped about that. There's definitely some different rules to talk about and explore, especially with them now having the main rulebook released, which has been released for
Absolutely. Yeah.
a long time now.
Oh yeah.
It's just now we're kind of looking into it because we haven't really been able to play. So, in saying that, hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Hopefully, some of this stuff helped you out with possible units, tactics, terrain, get you hyped for things to come. Always, welcome to come check out our Facebook and our YouTube, Podbean, Trident Wargaming, Instagram. Please, post your stuff. Let us know what you think. Let us know if there's stuff you want to see or hear. That's always appreciated, and any good feedback is always appreciated as well. So, also again, Dusty, thanks for being on the show again.
Yeah. Super grateful for you having me.
Oh, it's good. Thanks. No, that's really good. We always have fun doing this, right? It's we've got a close, tight knit group in the community, and it's always nice to have guys on the show to just share their ideas and their thoughts on some of the game that we love. So if you guys have that same passion and whatnot, keep on doing what you're doing. Show us those cool models. Post any questions, any topics you'd like to hear about, any ideas you got, by all means, hit us up. And with that, you guys have yourselves a great day, and we will catch you on the next one. Trident Wargaming. Build it, paint it, play it.